They say necessity is the mother of invention, and I think for a lot of kite makers, it's certainly the impetus to go buy their first sewing machine. Um, Many kite makers buy a kite and then, rather than spending money on kites, spend money on materials and start making. Um, my guest today is no exception to that story, but found his way to an identity all his own through unique graphic and beautiful use of color. My name is Jesse. This is Skyrider Limited. Please welcome Kevin Bayless to the pilots meeting. Kevin Bayless, welcome to the pilots meeting.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me.
I am really excited. First of all, I'm really excited because you and I share a background in sport kites, but I also love where you've ended up. And I really love kite art with a distinct identity. And I think your style is probably one of the more recognizable through the years, too. So I'm really excited to kind of dig into how you came to where you ended up stylistically and building kites and everything in general.
Well, it was all kind of through uh, wanting to do more and dealing with what I had. Um, the whole reason that I started making kites is that my wife wasn't going to let me buy
Okay.
them. I got into kiting. Was in the late '80s. We were living in Los Angeles, Van Nuys,
Okay.
and used to head out to the beach to surf or fish most of the time. And we went out to surf, and it was a shore break. And so I started surf fishing, and a buddy of mine had a 6 foot, 8 foot stack of crystal kites that he had
Okay.
just got from a kite store in Seal Beach. And I'm fishing and he's flying back on the beach, and these things are just buzzing all over the place, making all kinds of noise. I was like, that's pretty
Mm.
cool. And he let me try it, and I liked it.
Hmm.
And like the next week, I went to the kite store in Seal Beach and bought a 8 foot crystal kite with a stunt kite dual line with
Mhm.
lines and handles, uh, set of speed claws. Remember those?
Yeah. I've probably
On
got a
the
dozen sets left.
Yeah, on the wood handles. So it was like $200 for that first kite with line of handles. And I came home and my wife was, "You spent $200 on a what?" I said, "Well, babe, it's a kite. It's really cool. You should see it." Um, she said, "I don't care how cool it is. We cannot afford for you to be spending money on kites." It's like I flew that thing for the first month with Santa Ana winds. I was taking it to the park, getting dragged across the grass, ruining pants. Within a month, the trailing edge on the kite had all frayed, and I
Yep.
called Crystal Kites. You know, they had their phone number and their name on a tag on the back of the kite.
Right.
And I told the guy, "Hey, I bought it a month ago, and the trailing edge is all frayed." And he said, "Well, it shouldn't have done that in a month. Bring it over to our shop. We'll take a look at it." So he gives me his address, and I go, and it's just a guy and his wife making kites in their garage in the harbor. You know, pretty simple
Yeah.
setup. I was looking around. I was like, I could do this. And so they gave me a new kite, which I appreciate. And I still have it. It's the Crystal Dove. Remember the dual line Dove?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I still got it right back here in my closet.
That's awesome.
And I took it home and reverse engineered it. You know, I laid it out on a big piece of plywood and set marks, and bought a sewing machine at a pawn shop in Van Nuys and taught myself to sew, and uh, figured out back then there was no internet, so I was using
Right.
kiting magazines and at the time there were two or three of them out,
Yeah.
that led me to Hang 'em High in Virginia, which is where I bought most of my stuff for years until I for a long time.
Yeah.
But like for $85, I was able to buy enough material. I figured to make 5 kites. Uh, AFC carbon protruded frames and uh, the nylon hose from Home Depot that they
Right.
use
Yep.
for the fittings.
Yeah.
Uh,
Good old gas line.
yeah, exactly, all that stuff. And I made 5 kites. Um, and I still have the very first one. It was just horrid. Oh, there isn't a straight seam on it. The stitching and the sewing machine, it's like it's really out there. But the other part of the story that really is interesting is that we hung out with a guy at the park. We flew at Balboa Park in Van Nuys,
Okay.
which is at the time was a fairly new park, and that's where we met up on a regular basis to fly. And there was a guy that came out and flew with us all the time. I think he lives in Hawaii now. I'm pretty sure he's still alive. His name was Ralph Council, and Ralph was born blind. He was born blind at birth, completely blind, not like shaped or anything, but just completely dark. And Ralph would find his way from his house to the bus, on the bus all the way to the kite field. He'd get off the bus, find his way out to the middle of the kite field. He'd set up a transistor radio at his anchor point, walk his lines out, go back, get his kite, follow his lines out to the end, set his kite up, all from feel, and he would fly that sucker straight up in the air, and then he'd just do loops, and he'd count the many loops he did until he hit the ground. He'd anchor his line, go out, set the kite up, fly back up, and then fly that many loops the other way, just under the mountain it took to crash, and then he'd fly it back up to the top and finish unwinding it, and then that's what he would do for the day, is do loops,
That's so
count
cool.
them, and he could hear it. So we figured, let's have Ralph try one of our kites. I mean, he won't care what it looks like. It's just going to be a matter of how it feels and how it sounds to him.
Yeah.
And he took it, flew it. He loved it. He bought the kite right there from me on the kite field for $85, and that's how I started making kites. It was like I'd make one, somebody'd want one, and yeah, sure, I'll make you a kite. What colors you want? It's kind of where I'm at today. I don't really do, I guess, pre-planned designs. It's usually I ask people what their 3 favorite colors are, and then I'll just go from there. You hear me? Hello? Says reconnect.
There you are. Yeah.
Did I lose you?
Weird.
There?
Kevin, we lose
Yeah,
you?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Kinda. That's weird. Kevin?
Yeah, I'm here.
There you are.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Okay. Can you
That
hear
was
me
weird.
now?
Yeah, right? Oh, very strange.
It said my screen said reconnecting, but I could still hear you.
Very strange. Well, we can pick up right from there, and I'll just drop this part out in the edit.
What
So
were we
yeah,
talking-
we were talking about
flying
no
kites there.
pre-planned kites, right?
Yeah, that's how I kind of got into it. People would ask, they'd see us flying kites, they'd come out to the park and visit. I mean, we had a pretty good, decent sized group. And that's kind of what led me to where I am today. I never really thought of kiting as a way of as a business.
Sure.
I know that it's very tough business, and the few select few people out there that are making a living at kiting, my hat is way off to them, because I know it's not easy, but
Sure.
There's been people through my years in kiting that have made a great success out of kiting. I always thought of it as just a distraction, a hobby. I always had a real job.
Yeah. No, I mean, like you said, it's really impressive when people do make a run of it as a living. But yeah, it's definitely a tough place to be making a living. So, I mean, at some point, you sort of developed this very distinct graphic style. Your sort of
Well,
patchwork, fractal.
yeah, that came about after the stint of just tons and tons of stunt kites that I made. Um, I was doing a stack of stunt kites. It was a 6 foot, 8 foot, 10 foot dual line.
Okay.
We called it the tri stack, and I was actually selling quite a few of those. This would have been back in the early '90s, like '91, '92.
Sure.
Um, we were, but we were generating a lot of scrap, and I really had a hard time throwing any significant pieces away. Uh, people that have made uh, stunt kites before, especially if you're using triangular patterns and shapes, you end up with a lot of scrap. You have you ultimately in each kite you're going to have a little bit of scrap at this end or that end. And I just saved it all, and it got to the point where I had to make a wood out a bin out of plywood and put it on rollers just to roll it underneath the table, the bench that we had.
That's a
to
lot of crap.
to save it. Yeah, and so I was like, well, how can I use this? And I started taping it together using a seam stick, sewing tape, and I started by making I think it was an 8 foot by 8 foot parafoil. I had no clue what I was doing as far as making a foil goes, but I had all the scrap in it, so I made this 8 foot by 8 foot shape, turned it into a kite that didn't work very well, and then that went to, I think it was a 9 by 12, and then I ended up doing a 15 by 20 parafoil.
Wow, that's not a small lifter.
I had a lot of scrap.
Yeah, I'll say.
And I was trying to use it up. At the time, online, kitebuilder.com was the real kind of, just before Facebook, was really where kiters got together and shared their information and stuff. And I remember putting it out in there. I was looking to get more scrap, and so I told builders on there, hey, send me a box of your scrap and I'll make you a patchwork skin 4 foot by 6 foot that you can do what you want with. And I did a number of those, and for gosh, I can't even remember all the names, but I probably did like at least 5 or 6 people sent me scrap, and I'd make a skin and send it back to them.
That's really cool.
That was kind of how I got started. And what I liked about it is that I didn't really have to preconceive a design, just a color pattern. Is it going to be a hot kite, or is it going to be a cool kite? Is it going to,
Okay, sure. Yeah.
am I going to multiple colors or color themed, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. And I love how many different shapes you've done stuff with too, because we look at your body of work now. You've got the soft kites, lots of rocks and sort of bowed kites, and then the ground display stuff, and such wonderful ground display stuff. The banners, the spinners.
The ground display stuff took a while to accumulate, just because I kind of made that stuff in between making other stuff. But I really like it. In fact, I'm adding some more to my ground display. It's somewhere in the neighborhood like 30 tube tails and 12, 9, 11, 12 banners, all all set up together.
Yeah, I mean, it makes for a very impressive, the color and the even if there isn't wind, because of the patchwork, there's motion in your pattern, so it really makes a very full sort of scene.
Well, thanks. Yeah, that's I like the color. It's a shame it doesn't last out in the sun.
Yeah, the nylon stuff out in the Florida sun probably
Well,
not long for the world, especially
well,
the neons.
we hit the beach here at least once every month. We have a local club. We fly at Treasure Island Beach on the first
Mhm.
Sunday of every month. So in the summertime, we're not really overdoing it at the beach. I mean, summertime in Florida, beach time means you get out there at like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning and start packing up at noon.
Yeah, yeah, before it gets real hot or the
Before it gets,
thunderstorm rolls in.
yeah, it gets it. That's kind of the scenario for going to the beach in the summer. Now, from we get into October all the way to January, it's just beautiful. January can get a little cold, and then February is breaking out of that, and it gets starts getting nice again until about June, May or June.
Fair. So
Summer,
I want.
go
Sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. Oh no, no, you go ahead.
Oh,
I
I was
didn't.
going to say, summertime here in Florida is I treat just like wintertime in Utah when I lived there.
Mm,
It's summer's kite making season. I stay in the house, stay in my shop.
fair enough. Yeah. So, I wanted to talk a little bit because you've done some collaborative projects over the years too. You've done some stuff with, like, most recently, you just did a batch of masterpiece revs. I think you are now the most recent masterpiece rev builder. And then there's the stuff you've done using like Ty Billings fabric and stuff. How'd some of those projects come about?
Well, um, Rev, I mean, I remember when Revolution came out. That was funny. The Rev relationship is something that was fostered under Ben D'Antonio's uh, leadership, and that was how I was able to join what I feel is a very distinguished list of kite makers who have been masterpiece builders for Revolution in the past. Dazer, Gibeon, Skinner, Jose Sains, Burkhart, Scott's. There's a list of them, and so to be included in that list was really something. But um, I always had a lot of respect for what Rev did as a company, as far as coming out with a unique design. It's insanely popular. Uh, Although dual lines are starting to make a comeback. Um, we I actually am, and I'm doing a series right now. I'm doing a 6-piece series for Rev right now. I'm 3 kites into it and 3 kites to go.
Hmm.
Um, then the stuff with Ty Billings, uh, I met Ty at a KTI convention in January of '94 in Vegas. At and we found each other on the convention floor. And at the time, I was really into making the parafoils, and I was making, I had a 300 square footer. I was flying with Bob Anderson and what at the time they called the American Kite Team, and we were doing Verdun and Berkeley and flying big show kites. And
Mm.
Ty found me at the convention, and says, "Hey, you're that guy that makes the foils, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He says, "Well, if I sent you enough fabric to make a couple foils, could you make one for you and one for me? And nothing big, but just something on a smaller scale." I said, "Sure, no problem." And we go home from that convention and uh, get home to LA. We lived in Northridge at the time. About 9 o'clock at night on a Sunday night after leaving Vegas.
Hmm.
Wake up at 4 o'clock on Monday morning to the Northridge quake.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, wow.
yeah, it's because when I came back from KTI, I was ready to quit my job. I had already talked to my wife on the phone. Hey, I'm coming back. I'm quitting, and I'm going to start doing kites full time. I'm going to give it a go. And the earthquake hit the next morning. It's kind of somebody saying, "Why don't you put a hold on that plan?"
Mm.
But anyway, Ty ended up sending me like 6 or 7 sheets, like I want to say like 4 by 6 foot sheets of his tie dye fabric, his
Hmm.
treated 3/4 ounce tie dye fabric, and I made two um, 16 square foot parafoils that are actually my own design as far as all the dimensions go. And he still flies his. I still fly mine. And they're
Hmm.
well over 30, almost 4 years old.
That's
Um,
really cool.
I still have one full sheet of his fabric.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
and
that's a rare commodity.
well, it's really a pretty stunning piece of fabric. It's really hard to cut.
Mm.
Jose Saints told me one time. He says, until you cut it and make a kite, it's just a piece of fabric.
Mm.
So you kind of have to. That was he told me that years ago, and that was what led me to start cutting the stuff up that I had from him. You got to use it. I have bunches of
Yeah,
stuff.
I've heard. It's funny. I've heard other kite makers express similar feelings about not wanting to destroy fabric, but loving the finished project, hating having to make that first cut in the start.
It's sometimes it's more difficult than others, and it takes a lot of pondering, um, especially with Ty Billings fabric. I mean, his stuff is so special. If you've ever seen it up close,
Mm-hmm.
um, and there's enough of it out there. I have one of his school buses too, and just
Mm.
the real fine detail. You have to look into the tie dye to see the real fine detail, but it's there.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
No,
and it's not faded. It's fine line detail you can see really down on a small level.
I mean, until very recently, very few people were dying. I mean, Ty was sort of unique, and I think he still is in a lot of ways. Whatever he was doing to dye is different from what people are doing now. The
But also
fidelity of
some
color.
of his health. I mean, it was not a clean process.
No, I've heard him say that before. Yeah, that's probably a story that I'll have to get him to tell on here one of these days. But I've heard him say that it was not a good process for him or for his surroundings.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no. So I guess the next question is, because we kind of jumped around a little. Was it a like a straight transition from sport kites to single line, or was it something that you just kind of fell into?
It was something that I more or less just fell into. I mean, I like flying dual lines and quad lines. I'm not super good at it. I'm not, they do a lot of tricks with the dual lines now that when sometimes when I'm watching a routine, I'm wondering to myself if I was looking at it as just a run of the mill person off the street. I have to wonder, is that guy crashing or what's going on
Mhm.
there?
One of my favorite soapboxes. You can't tell if the kite's out of control or not. Then you're probably doing it wrong when you're presenting to an audience.
When I in the early '90s, a stunt kite routine was very choreographed, very one
Hmm.
plane, one dimension type display. It was like
Hmm.
there's your canvas in front of you, and that's what they dealt with. They didn't try to. They weren't doing the axles. I think were probably one of the first real aggressive moves that I remember coming out in
Yeah.
dual lines. Is
Yeah.
before that it was like, well, can I stand my kite on its wingtip at the edge of the wind window and
Yep.
all that
Slides, stalls, landings
slides
were
and
tricks.
yeah, it all kind of evolved. With quad lines, it was bound to because of the control they have.
Hmm.
Um, but the single lines, when I started making the parafoils and doing the show kites, uh, it was I want to say that first big kite that I made, the 300 square footer, or actually it was 192 square foot, and I brought it to Berkeley, California. At the time, again, we lived in LA, and And so this would have been probably 92. And I think the World Cup was going on for dual line uh, kites in Berkeley that year. I remember I have a pin somewhere. I think it said Berkeley and World Cup. Um, but we went out there that year, and I really didn't know many people in outside of the LA area, the local kiteers there. Uh, and we set up on the field and got this big foil I just finished and put it up with these. I had these really long tails we made for it, and it was flying really really good. And unbeknownst to me, we had set up camp right next to George Ham, and he was 20 questioning me the entire weekend about my stakes, my line, my foil, this and that. And then I didn't find out until later who he was. But it was a very interesting encounter because I gleaned a lot of information from him during that. It was also where I met Bob Anderson, and he noticed that kite and came up. It was the time there's a picture circulates around of the Bobby Sock flying at Berkeley, and it's like fully off the ground and spinning. And it was during that photo shoot that I met Bob, and he really liked the foil, and we actually made a trade there on the field for. He traded me three bubble tails, one from Green's Kites and two from Scott Spencer.
Okay.
And I traded him the kite for it. So then I went home. I needed to make another one, so I made a 300 square footer. And when in the process of making that, I really kind of liked the idea of the single lines because once you get them up and they're in the air doing their thing, you really just got to kind of watch them.
Right.
Made for at the time when I drank, there was a lot more time for beer drinking and hanging out and shooting the shit with your friends, and
Sure.
it got to the point with my 300 square footer that I had total confidence in that kite. I'd put it up at Santa Monica Pier on the north side of the parking lot, north edge of the side of the pier. We'd go on the 4 Saturday flies there, and I'd anchor that thing out, and then we'd walk up the pier and go up on the bluff up above, and I'd watch my kite from, a half mile away, and oh yeah, it's still up.
That's wild.
The aspect of being able to put a bunch of stuff up, I think, and walk away from it and still have it up there is really where I got the appeal. The appeal for single lines came from that.
Okay. I can see that, yeah. So when and so you started with the foils. When did you start branching into the framed single line stuff then?
That would have been again early 90s, 93, 94, 95. I think 93 is I made my first 8-foot roke, which I still have and fly. I've reframed it, but I still have it and fly it. The Rokkaku, because all the stuff, all the lines that I do in my kites are straight. So the interesting thing about the Rokkaku is the deformity that happens to the sail when it's flying. If you've ever looked at it from, if you got an 8-foot Rokkaku up in a 12 mile an hour, 15 mile an hour wind, if you looked at it from behind, it doesn't look like a Rokkaku. It contorts, and having all the straight lines in my sail designs on a contorted sail, it gives it the appearance of curves and more, I guess, organic shapes.
Sure. So, yeah. So I guess, have you got any projects you're like, I mean, you mentioned you're doing another set of masterpieces. Got any other projects you're just sort of like, you've been mulling over, something you've always wanted to do?
Yeah. Scott Skinner asked me to make a 3-stick what he calls a Colorado barn door.
Okay.
He's asked me to make one for him. It's a three 6-foot sticks. So I'm kind of messing around with that. I got some more. I got a couple more banners and a few more tube tails to make. Got a Long Beach, New Jersey festival coming up in October.
Yep.
That I got to have a few more things for. I'll probably knock a roke or two out in between now and then too. We've got some travel going on. We've been traveling a lot this year. We just got back from Utah. We were back there for a vacation for a week, and then next month we're going to Oklahoma to see our oldest son, and then October we're going up to Ship Bottom, New Jersey for that.
Right.
Then we get back from that, and the week before Thanksgiving we have here in Treasure Island we have the Standing Ovations event. So there's a lot planned between now and January and February.
Yeah, that'll keep you busy. I actually totally going to divert this back a little bit to you mentioned earlier that you had bought yourself a sewing machine, taught yourself to sew. I have heard that you started on a fairly interesting sewing machine, and I know kite makers and their sewing machines are often a inseparable pair. I heard something about a rather antique industrial machine somewhere in there.
Yeah, I had my very first machine was a Morris that we got at a pawn shop in Van Nuys. But I graduated from that pretty quick. I graduated from that to was a Singer. I think it was a 1W7. I mean, it was a 1949 serial number, and it was a Singer. It did adjustable zigzag from straight stitch to about a 5mm zigzag. And
I'm guessing that was about it.
And that was about every. I mean, there wasn't a plastic piece on it. Every single thing on it was metal, and it was very. And it sewed great, and I knew my way around that machine left and right. If something wasn't working right, I knew right where to go and how to adjust it. But as I got older, all the fine movements were done. You had to use your hand on the turn wheel.
Sure.
So, there was no setting the needle. The needle would stop wherever you let off the foot pedal, and it was random. So there was a lot of that, and it just, it started to, I guess, getting like carpal tunnel almost from trying to turn that knob all the time. And then Blake Pelton turned me on to, and this would have been probably 10 years ago or a little more, turned me on to the Husqvarna sewing machine. I bought it was an Emerald 118, and it's just kind of the same machine that Joann's used for their sewing classes. Just a really bulletproof little machine. It's a $500 machine. You can still buy them. They're new. It has an auto foot down, auto foot up, has a 2-step and a 3-step zigzag. And they're bulletproof. You don't oil them. It's a self-contained thing. You just keep sewing on them until they stop. Clean your bobbin case and stuff. And now I use a Husqvarna Sapphire 930, which is more of a quilter's machine, but it had a longer, deeper throat.
Sure. Which I imagine with the patchwork stuff comes in pretty handy.
Yeah, it's all the room you can get. It's nice. It reminds me more of the space I had with my old Singer. So,
like I say, I can see with the patchwork stuff being able to get some pretty decent reach over the panel, because you never know which direction you're going to be sewing on something like that, I imagine.
Right. But sometimes I roll it, sometimes I just bunch it. But it's sewing's a sewing any project's kind of like a math puzzle, figuring out which way you're going to go with the thread, which way you're
Sure.
going to go with the seams.
Sure. So I got a question I've asked a couple of people over the years. Is there anything you just desperately want to make, but you like haven't figured out the mechanics of it yet?
Mhm. You know, I was always super impressed with Bobby Stanfield and Simon
Mm,
Fraft's um, cellular uh,
mm,
kites and Gibeons. You know, it's
hmm.
I really the big star kites you see out there, and I know that Bobby made some really interesting stuff. Simon and I were good friends when he first started getting into kiting, and he made some amazing
Gorgeous stuff. Yeah.
kites. Um, but I also saw how often they got put together and flown, which is
Yep.
what's kept me from going that direction, I
No,
think.
I totally
So
understand that.
I tend to admire those kites from afar. The engineering and just the fortitude required to assemble that thing out on a kite field. Uh, I
No,
can't even
totally.
imagine some of the
My
levels of
dad has.
frustration.
It's funny. My dad has one of Bobby's Celestial Navigators,
Okay,
and it is fully assembled. It's about the size of a queen size mattress,
right,
and it is indoors. It takes probably 20 minutes to put together, and that's because I sat down and labeled all the tubes and fittings a bunch of years ago so that we could remember how to put it together.
right,
In the wind, it's probably double that because you're just chasing parts of the kite all over the field.
right.
So no, I totally understand what you mean about the big cellular stuff. That is a special occasion kite.
Yeah, it is. It really is. You know, sometimes you just want to. And that's the other appeal to like a three-stick kite. You know, a
Hmm.
nice, Rokkaku. It doesn't even have to be a big one, but it's something that's pretty easy to carry, generally pretty light, can fly in a lot of different conditions, and
Hmm.
sometimes you just want to put a kite up.
Yep.
Um,
And
and
sometimes you just need Cassie at Flying Smiles refers to them as the kite signal. You just need a kite to just go up and be the sign that you're here to fly.
right,
Yeah. Well,
as far as anything else that I'd like to make,
mm,
yeah, I I enjoy messing. I think with the colors and patterns really more than the actual kite itself.
mm.
Um, I've I've made an eddy kite. I found some fittings. Um, let me grab one. I found some. These are aluminum dihedral. It
Huh.
takes Sky Sharks fit inside it,
Huh. That's cool.
even with the OD. Um, and so I have like six of these, and I'm debating on. I made one kite, and it's a pain in the ass to take apart and stow away with this piece in it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's gonna be a tough. Like that's a
Versus,
wide fitting for a bag.
yeah, versus bowing, just taking a straight rod, the spreader, and bowing it.
Sure.
I'm trying to
I'm
figure out how to make this work and make
I'm
a.
curious. Did you like center drill so it slides onto the spine, or is it lying under the spine?
Uh, it flies under it goes in first, and the spine's over top of it. I don't have the
Gotcha.
spine attached to this.
Gotcha.
This doesn't really even it stays in the kite, but I've got like sleeves. I got two sleeves over this side, two sleeves over this side that kind of hold it in the
Gotcha.
in the kite. So I
Okay.
just have to take the spreaders out, and then when I put the spine in, it rides over the top, but it's got a couple, let's say, a couple sleeves here and a sleeve here, to kind of hold it all together. That's just something that, and I've had these things probably for 20 years, and
Hmm.
I've looked at them and looked at them, and I could make this with that, or I could make that with that. And finally, like I said, I made an Eddie last year, and I'm still messing around with it.
Hmm.
That's one thing about being retired and not doing it for a living is I kind of get to work what I want to work on when I want to work on it.
Sure, yeah.
Sometimes a nap sounds better.
Fair enough. So your stuff's really like with the patchwork, very colorful. I'm curious though, do you have like a stack of like stash of all those colors, or are you still just like picking up scraps from wherever you can find them?
Um, no, I pretty much am self-generating scraps now. I have in Icarex, I think I have one, two, three. I think I got like 4 or 5 colors that are no longer available.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, come on, don't leave us hanging. Drop hints.
Well, I tend to hold that back for. I use some of it in some of these masterpieces.
Sure.
Out of the sticks that I'm doing, I think at least 2 of them will have the unobtainium fabric in them.
Ooh.
Well, I know one
I
already
mean,
does. It's got a dark. Icarus used to do a really dark purple.
plum.
It won't-
Yeah, also
no,
referred to as
plum is
aubergine.
different. Plum is different than the really dark purple.
There another one? So there was
It's darker. It's darker than
magenta,
the
which
plum.
was purple, berry, Reuben, plum, wine. Huh. Is there another purple? Grape is the pale one.
Well, there's. I'm just looking here.
Hmm. I also feel like the names keep got swapped a bunch over the
Yeah.
years.
So this is what's considered purple
That's
now.
purple, which Europe calls magenta.
Yeah, and this is the purple that you can buy now. There is no
Right.
other purple option.
Correct.
This
Yeah. Whoa, that is a big roll. Holy crap.
is a really dark purple. I don't know if you're seeing that in the
Yep.
camera.
Oh yeah, that's coming through beautifully.
Okay, so that's the really dark, and then this is the plum or the
Uh,
berry.
I I think that's berry, isn't it? And the darker one's plum.
That might be it. But I've got those, and then I've got the
Wow.
Caribbean blue.
Oh my God, you really do have unobtainium.
Yeah,
If you've
I've
got
got
mango, I
the
know someone's gonna beat your door down.
I've got the Caribbean blue.
Ooh.
I've
Wow.
got this green.
Oh yeah,
It's,
that
I've
just
got
discontinued like
I
a
got
year ago.
4 shades of green. I got the green. I got the cedar.
Mm,
So I'll gradually I'll gradually use that stuff.
sure.
It,
That's super
and
cool though.
it'll hit me that one of these days I'm going to run out of it. I try to use it sparingly.
Sure. But like you said, it's not a kite till you put it in one, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's really
Well,
cool.
my hope is by using it, is that it adds a little more value.
Mm, sure. I mean,
Being able to have something that you can't get anymore.
yeah, I mean, I definitely gravitate to stuff like that personally. I definitely have some kites that I've sought out specifically because there was some unattainable fabric on the menu. A couple of years ago, I had Hunter Brown build me one of his gliders, and
Uh-huh.
it's wine, slate, and Cuban.
Oh wow.
Yeah. The unobtainiums of unobtainiums altogether.
Yeah, and Hunter makes a nice kite.
He does. He really does.
He's a good guy. Yeah,
Well,
you had
I mean,
asked me earlier, it just occurred to me that, how I kind of got into the design I'm doing.
mm,
And it was kind of I think, almost by accident.
hmm
But Ron Gibeon, years ago, told me, he says, if you want to be known or recognized, or acknowledged, I guess would be a better word, in the kite community, the way to do it is to come up with a distinctive style and stick with it.
mm,
So that it gets to the point that at any point somebody flying one of your kites in the air, that the kite is recognizable as you.
right.
Um, and I mean, he's done the exact same thing. You can tell a
hmm
Gibeon. Uh, you can
No,
absolutely tell a Gibeon.
I
Even
think
with
that.
all the Astroglide knockoffs out there, you can tell when one's by him and versus isn't.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. I always liked. Ron once told me he frequently starts a kite without a plan on how to finish it, and that his style is so refined that he can go into something as complex as what he makes without a plan and still come out with what he does is just a remarkable sort of, like you said, his stuff is, being recognizable as a Bayless, a Gibeon, Hampton, the list is Brasington.
Yeah, I'm going to be
You know,
flying with Scott Hampton and Ron Gibeon at Long Beach. They got the three of us in the art kite field.
oh, that'll be great. That'll be a gorgeous sky. I wish
Yep.
unfortunately I'm going to be at conventions, so I'm probably not going to make it to LBI. I wish I could get down and see you guys.
Is convention the same time?
What are we? Yeah, basically. It's like the second week of October, unfortunately. So
Well, I think LBI is like the first weekend.
it is, yeah, but like yourself, I've chosen to make my living in the real world and not the kite world. So bouncing out that many times in that close succession tends to get annoying to employers.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. But yeah, that'll be a really cool sky, and though that's going to be a very colorful sky too.
I've seen some over the years.
Mm,
It's I look out on the kite community, and a lot of my friends are older, like me, and I keep looking to see who's up and coming to replace us. Um,
yeah, it's I mean, it's a lot of why I wanted to start doing these. Obviously, is capturing the kite history and the stories before we don't have it, which is a really sobering fact because I mean, I started so young. I've been around for 35 years, and I, like you, there's a long list of, empty spaces in the sky. People we've known large, from like larger than life figures like Corey Jensen to,
yeah, Corey and I
um,
were good friends.
we just lost Bobby, like what, maybe a month ago.
Yeah, it's been about a month.
Yeah. Simon's been a couple years now. Um, those are
Adrian,
those are those are voices. Those are that's art we don't get. We're
you
not
don't get
getting
it.
anymore.
That's true. Randy Tom.
Randy, yep, yeah, that's been a few years now. That was, yeah. I mean, there are new people working, but we're definitely at sort of a crossroads on a lot of that, and
I don't doubt that there's people working. I don't know if I'm not paying attention or what, but um,
Well,
in the U.S., I'm trying to think. There's a couple kids out there that are making some sport kites, but
um, so with a couple of exceptions I can think of, Cassie Shook being, a really good friend who's sort of developing her own style. I think part of why it doesn't feel like there are as many new kite artists around right now is a lot of them are not developing a distinct style yet. They're making stuff, but they're not putting their stamp on it. And I
yeah.
think that that's the missing component from what we were just talking about recognizable work by an artist. In the US, there are people making kites, but they're not they're downloading a plan, they're making a thing. It's just carbon copy from the plan to the sky. There's
Hmm.
no there's no style.
Yeah,
And I think it'll come.
I hope
I,
so.
I think, I mean, the same way you said you started by reverse engineering something and then you gradually found your style and your signature. I think that will come. I
Um,
hope.
I do too. I do too. I just know that like Ron Bohart. I'm a great fan of Ron Bohart's.
Mm,
I've got 4 kites by him
mm.
that have all been gifts. And he's like turning 88 this year, I think. The guy keeps going though. He was just flying one of his foils out of the back of a boat up in Portland for 4th of July.
Wow.
Yeah, he and uh, Dave. Uh, I can't remember Dave's last name now. Okay. Yeah,
Well,
he.
hey.
Pardon me, Butler, Dave Butler.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
He
So,
and Dave Butler flew his eagle foil with a big ass tail out the back of a boat up and down a lake in Portland at
that's
his
great.
daughter's house. Took it off without getting it wet from his daughter's backyard and was able to land it right back in the backyard without getting it. Didn't touch the water.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
impressive.
for a couple
I mean,
80-year-old men, yeah, it is.
right. I mean, I hope that, like I said when we sat down to do this, capturing this kite history is really important to me, and hopefully that these kinds of discussions about style and identity will resonate, and we'll start to see some of that. Um, yeah, it's interesting because like you said earlier, there was no internet when you started, right? So
Right.
like you had to figure a lot of this out, like you said, from the magazines by yourself in your garage, your basement, your spare room, wherever you set up shop. Hopefully, we encourage people to go figure some of this out and not just download a plan and make it. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Right.
I think it's great. People are out making stuff and learning skills, but yeah, creating something new in the world is also like, yeah,
Extremely important.
right.
You know, you asked for stories.
Mm,
I remember standing on a field in Verdun, Montreal.
mm.
And I want to say it was 93. Yeah. For my post, I'm looking at the date on my poster. It was 93. And I was out in the field, and it was Bob Anderson, Dave Gomberg,
Hmm.
Art Ross, Peter Lynn, and did I say Bob Anderson? I think I did.
I think you did, yeah.
Uh, as we're listening to uh, uh, Dave tell us what a waste of airspace he thought big show kites were, because they took up the field, dominated the space, and it didn't allow any room for the sports kite flyers to do their. Did you lose me?
No, I got you. You're good.
It didn't allow for any of the other participants of the festival to have their time to shine, because it took so long to set them up and get them down and get them out of the way. You couldn't just put them up for a minute and take them down like you could a sport kite.
Right.
And I remember all of us were like, no, the sport kites are going to kind of be there. It's a thing. It was kind of when it was kind of new. Bob was messing around with the bobby sock, and he called them baskets, his bowls. It was right around the time Michel Brichier had first come out with his first bowls, because he was there. It occurs to me now that it's pretty easy to get into. Back then, it was hard to get into the show kite stuff because nobody was making that stuff.
Right.
You know, Bob Anderson had Green's kites pretty much contractually locked up to everything they sewed was for him. Everything we made was huge. And that eventually, I think, is probably part of the demise of Green's kites, because they just had that one customer. You know, they weren't
right.
Before Bob, they were doing the Stratoscoops and tube tails and other inflatables. So I think that now and at the time it was really what we were doing was so dangerous, and we had not much of a total clue of how much power we were dealing with.
Right.
And now it's really easy to get that same power and get that same stuff. And there are any number of factories out there in China that are producing stuff that, you know, it maybe is or isn't decent quality. You know, maybe it flies when you get it, maybe it doesn't, and needs a lot of work. I think if there's anything I can encourage anybody right now that's looking to get into kiting, is that there's more to kiting than being the show. For some of us, I hate to use the word spiritual because I'm not a spiritual guy, but for me, the act of, you know, going out and kite flying is the act of forgetting about everything else I got going on.
It's meditation.
Yeah, it's a shot of whiskey. It's a hit off the bong. It's, you know, whatever you want to call it, but it's not being the show is really it's not all there. And then that puts hyper focus on your safety. And it's always something I like to give people the benefit of the doubt and have the common sense to not do that. But I mean, I did a fly to school, and I actually had to put my kites up between where the kids were flying and the power lines, so that they wouldn't fly past my kites and get into the power lines. And that stuff's, I don't know that that's even being taught in school anymore. I mean, I learned about kites. I learned about kites in school, and definitely learned that, you know, electricity and kites don't go well together. Oh, stay away, and you don't, you know, just the common sense stuff. So, yeah, it's easy to get into that show kite stuff. Just be careful and be safe.
It's funny. I have this theory that the barrier to entry coming down because of the increase to the China production has made the show kiting scene a little less safe. I think because they were so expensive back in the day, people spent time with people that had them and learned safe ways to handle before they bought their first.
Yeah, exactly.
And now that you can buy one for effectively the same price as a boutique sport kite, $300 to $500 for a good sized ray or octopus or something. I'm not saying that everybody who buys a $300 midi ray doesn't know what they're doing, but there are definitely people who dive for a big kite before they've learned how to handle a big kite, and I think they can get very surprised very quickly.
Oh yeah. Bowls are a good one. And you try to hang on to bowls. Bowls got a lot more power than people give them credit for. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
there's other guys out there doing a good job, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing the LED lighted kites are making a big splash, so um, anything that'll lead, I guess, the general public to be attracted to kiting is good.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice to start getting a little more commercial attention and people, putting on events, and which is it's not hard to do. If you have a group of kiters, you start hanging out at a well known, like on the coast. It's most any beach that you can get to,
Mm-hmm.
but people start realizing that you're out there, and they come up to us now in Treasure Island.
Mm-hmm.
There's residents now there that have kites that are because they saw us out there flying kites and they came out and interacted with us.
Sure.
So anything that could get kiting promoted more, I'd be all for it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Well, awesome, man. Hey, so really quick, we'll start to kind of wind this down. Where can people follow along? Are you on Instagram or any of those?
I'm not on Instagram. I am on TikTok, but I don't do much there. Mostly it's going to be on Facebook, and I got the Stupid Bags by Kevin
Hmm.
group page. Um, that sign right there is where I got that from. By the way, that's from an Alice Cooper album.
Okay.
Uh, it was from a poster from a concert or an
Gotcha.
album, and that was how I came about with Stupid Bags. Because I hate making bags. I hate it. But a
Love that.
kite's not a kite till you get the stupid bag done.
Fair enough. And so you got LBI this year. Any place else people can find you?
Treasure Island would be I think it's the third weekend in January. It's always a good time. Like I said, Treasure Island on November. Next year, I'm assuming I'll be going back to Grand Haven again. They kind of
Be in there.
let me know that I would be welcome to come, and I had a really good time at Grand Haven.
Such a wonderful festival.
Yeah, I've known about that since I got into kiting. I was really, uh, it took me a while to get there, but I had a
Yep.
blast. The wind was great. The beach was nice. The
Hmm.
people were super good. They took great care of us. We loved it there.
Yep. Yep.
But other
Yeah.
than that, just, yeah, Facebook is probably the best place. My profile is open to the public, so
Right on. Kevin,
everything I make, I sell, and it's just a matter of whether how old it is. It depends how much I sell it for.
fair enough. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on, for the time, for chatting.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And thank you to all of you, and we will see you out there.